audio by computer. It's recording. Do not look at me. And let's share the screen. Okay, so let's see. And especially since Sabrine is not here. All right, so let's Cog app on the authentication. Now, if this was true Cog app, like Cognitive Apprenticeship, the way that the guild has done this, and I actually have never done this before, is that I would just like totally do my thing, and you guys would like write down questions that you have, and then I'd save like the last 10 minutes for you guys to ask me questions. Are you interested in just like watching me do whatever I do without talking about it, or would you rather I narrate?
For narration.
Narration, okay.
But so like, would it be helpful for your flow if we didn't ask questions? I would like.
No.
Just go with the comfort.
No, I like questions. So, Mira, Celeste, do you have?
Yeah, I would like I feel like one of the videos we watched was pretty full, just like a descriptive commentary.
Just what?
Like a descriptive
A
commentary.
descriptive commentary, but not necessarily explanatory. Okay. So that you're following. Okay. Mira, do you have a?
So what do we decide?
Oh, I'm going to do the authentication. Yeah. Because Jonathan asked for DOM, but we did that last week, and Sabrine asked for database, but she's not here. So.
Yeah, and I probably that here also we still have a.
You're doing authentication right now?
Yeah. I'm going to do the authentication benchmark for phase 2. Okay. All right. So fine. So general consensus. I am going to okay, I do, you watch, and then I am also going to, and I'm going to describe, but not necessarily like explain, teach. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the benchmark, which I have never looked at because I just had no time to ramp up for this job. So, okay, so in this benchmark, you're going to build an Express server, sign up, log in, and log out. Your HTTP routes will be able to render different information depending on whether the request is from an unknown visitor or login user. A ton of specs. So to make sure you break down each problem is, okay, all right, so can build an HTTP server with Node and Express. I feel like I'm good with that. Can track users with cookies. I've never used cookies with Express, so we'll see. I can make post requests to a server from a form. Again, I've never used cookies with Node or Express. I can definitely implement a SQL schema by looking at the specs, and I can use PG Promise. Okay, so I feel like my main learning here is going to be with the cookie stuff. All right, so specs. Build this app in a new empty GitHub repository. Okay, so I'm going to make a GitHub repository. Let me just make a new repository, and I'm going to call this phase 2 HTTP authentication benchmark. Okay. And for the description, I think I'll just put this in here just to keep myself on task. It'll be public. And let's add a JavaScript node. All right, we'll add a node get ignore. I've actually never done that before, but why not? Awesome. All right, so now, I'm gonna take this, and in my source directory, I'm going to git clone. Now I am blowing my nose. Thank you for laughing, Mira. Okay, so So I did an LSLRT because I knew this would be listed last. And now because I forgot what it was called. Okay, cool. So let's go back here and see what else we got. Okay, use node. All right, cool. Ensure all of your NPM dependencies are listed in your package JSON. Use Postgres. Design a database schema to store users. Commit your schema. Use Express, body parser, cookie session, and PG promise. Well, I might as well just install those now. Express, body parser, cookie session, and PG promise. Implement the following user stories. When you are not logged in, you visit the / homepage. You see hello stranger, a link to sign up, and a link to log in. If you visit sign up, you'll see a form with email, password confirmation, and sign up. When you submit sign up with no values, with a value, with a valid email, you visit login, you submit the login form, blah, 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 blah. You visit logout, blah, blah, blah. When you're logged in, okay. And then there's stretch, and we can encrypt, and we can write tests. So in general, if I was doing this as a like actual test, or if I was doing this as an actual programmer, I would do it with TDD. I would write my tests first. But for now, I'm going to just dive right in with no tests because if I was more familiar with how to test Express, I would actually do the tests first while I was working on this with you guys. But I don't want to spend a lot of time figuring out tests right now. Okay, so all right, so now I want to think about what files I want. I'm going to, okay, so clearly I need a server file. I'm going to need a schema file. And, okay. And then I also, I think I might start by thinking about my database. So I'm going to, oh, right. And I also want to make sure that I've got ESLint installed because I find ESLint incredibly helpful, even though it's also kind of annoying. So let's see. Do you guys know about this amazing ESLint GitHub I made? Let's see, ESLint atom install. So here, so for every project, add this to the package.json file. Oh, I never did an npm init. Darn it. I'm going to have to do all that again. Okay. So now I'm going to put in my dev dependencies so that I can have my ESLint. Okay, and cool. So now I think I might as well do an npm or a git commit. Do git status first, just see what's going on. Let's see. And then I always push right after I commit. Oh man, but apparently, all right. Why? did you allow me to clone it? Oh, but I guess anybody can clone it. Okay, I will be pushing later because I don't have my SSH set up here. I thought I did, but apparently I don't. So, okay. And now I'm going to quit out of Atom because you need to do that if you change ESLint stuff in order for the ESLint to work. All right, so now I'm going to make my database. I think I'm going to make a new directory called database, and then I'm going to make a file called schema.sql. Now I want to think about my tables. And really, this is a pretty boring database. It's going to have one table. It's going to have user, and the users table. The primary key, I'm just going to make serial, and then I'm going to, let's see, did they want a username or an email? Let's see. Email, password, and okay. So I'm just going to store the email and the password. So that's really easy. So we'll go in here. And, oh, I did that commit, but I forgot to add. So thank you, Adam, for keeping those green for me. So let's actually do a git add of the package. And now we'll do that same commit again, which is probably bad style, but I'm going to do it anyway. So now I actually committed 2 files. Okay. Yeah, and for those of you who are paying attention, it like told me before that I hadn't tracked the files, and now Celeste is just laughing at me. So it's all right. Okay, so okay, good. So now those aren't green anymore. Fantastic. This is green, but that's okay. I don't need to add it until, or I don't need to commit it anyway until I've done anything. So one table, create table users, and let's make a user ID. I like snake case for database columns. So user ID, primary, serial, primary key. And then I want an email field. And that's going to be just text, which I've been doing lately because storage really isn't a problem. So I don't need to like micromanage the number of characters. And I'm also going to call that one unique because I don't want 2 people with the same email, and I'm going to call it not null. And then password is going to be text and not null. It wouldn't be great if 2 people had the same password, but I'm not going to say you can't choose that password, somebody else has it. So, all right, cool. So now let's create DB, and I'm going to call this HTTP Auth, and then I'll do pSQL HTTP Auth, and all right, created a table. How about that? So I'm feeling good enough about that to commit. Although first I might make a couple of scripts. So let's go into our package.json again, and I'm going to just make, I'll make a create DB, or no, that's right. We do DB : create. That's not red, which means there's some syntax error. DB create, and we'll say create DB auth, and then DB. And actually, let's just in that case do an and which is wait for the next. Wait for this process to complete successfully, and then do the next one. And I might, if once I do testing, well, I could do a different DB. I could do different DB creates for testing, or I could actually make this an environment variable. I'll think about that later when I'm doing testing, which I might do in a future thing if you guys want me to continue this, or maybe I'll do it myself later. So db/schema.sql, and then we'll do db.reset, which I'll do drop db HTTP Auth and npm run db create. Okay, so let's see whether that db reset actually works. Yeah, great. All right, so cool. So now I have this, and right, and so package has been modified and schema has been created. Let's do an git add. You have to say run if it's not a standard one. So standard ones are like start and test, but since I just made up db reset, I have to say run. Okay, so all right, so doing a git add, create table schema, and npm scripts to create reset db. All right, so cool. And I can't push that because I have authentication problems, ironically. All right, so now let's see what else we got. So now I think I'm actually going to work on the PG promise stuff now. I'm going to think about, excuse me, what ways I'm going to need to interact with my database, and I'm going to write those functions now. And those I actually am going to do TDD for, because I've been working a lot with PG Promise, and like I actually can do TDD on that. So let's go. So first let's go to the npm test. All right, so I'm just thinking about my order for TDD. So first I'm gonna go here, and what I want is I always want to do export node env equals test, because I'm going to be making a test database, and then I want to run Mocha. So because I'm going to be running Mocha, I need to make a test DB, and then inside I'll make a new file called dbtest.js. Okay, and now, okay, so now I've got that. And now I want to think about, okay, so in DB, I'm going to make a new file, and I'm just going to call it db.js. Change my mind. I'm going to call it dbconnection.js. And so here, for this one, what I'm going to do is, this is just going to be where I'm going to set up my database connection, clearly. So I'm going to say const pgp equals require pg promise, and good. ESLint is yelling at me, which is all I ever want in life. Okay, and then const connection is going to be, this is where I'm going to say if node, so process.env.node env, if it is test, then I want to do Postgres HTTP Auth test, which I have to remember to create. Otherwise, I want it to be Postgres HTTP Auth. Okay, so let me go ahead and create that HTTP Auth test. Okay, and so now, all right, and then const db equals pgp connection, and then I want to do a module.exports equals db pgp, and I'm exporting pgp because I haven't figured out how to get that darn connection to close without explicitly closing it. So I'm going to make sure that I can do a pgp.end whenever I need to. Okay.
Do I need to specify like
That's the default port, and by not putting a host, it uses the default host, which is localhost. So yeah, so this is a little lazy, but yeah. And yet it works. Okay, so what? Yeah. If we weren't lazy, we wouldn't be programmers. We'd just do everything by hand all the time.
Somebody I heard, I think it was John who said that, like, software engineers work smarter than they're technically lazier.
Yeah, it's totally true. Okay, so git status, git add package.json, and no, not that. Git add db connection, git add test, set up framework for doing for connecting to DB and testing. Okay, so now let's go back to the test, since I said I was going to do TDD. So here now, I'm going to const db pgp equals require ... db schema. No, db. Okay, and what else do I need here? Const expect equals require chai dot expect. Yes, I know I have not.
yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, hold on. There we go. I've been trying to get better at my keyboard shortcuts. In general, built it or installed module requires go before your requires of your own code. Right, but now I need to install. You guys may notice I jump around a lot. That's just how my brain works. This is Cog App, not me teaching. So I'd probably be a little more methodical if I was actually teaching. npm install save dev chai muka. Okay. And okay, so now let's do it. Oh, and then I'm also going to want to, and let's think about what database functions we need. DB, I'll just call, I don't like really just calling it db.js, so I'll be dbutilities.js. So let's make let's make a new file, and let's call it, I called it dbutilities.js. Okay. And so this is going to be, I want to require const db equals require slash db connection db, and I think that's all I need. So what functions do I need? So I'm going to do JS doc, and the first function I want to add a user to the database. That seems like an easy place to start. So it is the parameters it's going to take. It's going to take a user or an email. This is JS doc, which I'm quite a fan of. So I'm going to do an email, and it is actually, I have ESLint. Don't. Okay. I have ESLint linting me for JS doc, but it's just, I don't even know. It's just like a standard that JavaScript uses for documenting functions, classes, files. Actually, in my personal project I'm doing, I actually have a JS doc string at the beginning of each file, like for module. Yeah, I'm big on documentation. So at param string password. That my descriptions here are pretty useless. Returns, and this is going to return a promise, which is going to be promise resolving to user ID. Just because I think that I'm going to, I mean, I sort of skimmed my, like, is there an actual like user page? Oh, there's no actual user page. Or like, I guess, yeah, I don't know whether it's necessary for me to return the ID, but that's what I would do in almost any case where I was adding something. So I'm just gonna stick with that for now. Although that is bad modeling behavior. Okay, so I'm going to think it through a little bit more. So there's login, sign up, there's slash, and basically all slash does is welcome back. And when you log in successfully, you're going to be logged in and redirected to the home page. And so I really do want to be passing around what that user ID is, so that when, and also, all right, I still don't feel like entirely thinking this through, which again is pretty bad modeling, but it's honest modeling. So like it's how I would actually really do it, but it's not necessarily how I would recommend it. Just because I feel like I've been doing this long enough that my instincts tell me that this will serve me just fine, but I'm not really like looking to the future here. All right, so const add user, it takes an email, it takes a password, and no, this is not how you do things in JavaScript. Okay. All right, and so now I am actually, all right, you got problems here. All right, let's help you with that. Okay, that'll be, and then why don't you like password? Oh, it's defined but email is used. Okay, so fine, and so now I'm just not even going to return anything. I'm just going to leave it like this. I might return new promise, just so my tests, at least they're expecting a promise. And I'm going to be like, okay. Okay. And, oh, you don't like DB connection. Oh, because it's in the same directory. Okay. And I'm not using DB, and I'm fine with that for now, and I'm not using password. Okay. So now, let's go to the test. And let's do a describe. Oh, and so now I'm doing add user. So let's do describe, add user, put some parentheses, and okay, and yeah, I think I might just, oh, and I don't have, okay. How are we doing now? Okay, and I might just, I might actually change this in my ESLint preferences at some point, but for right now, I'm just gonna leave it and just let ESLint be angry. I'm using this because Mocha and Chai do funny things sometimes if you use arrow functions. I have no better information on that.
There's a package that apparently makes arrow functions work nicely.
Wow, that's great. So Celeste says there's an NPM package you can download that makes arrow functions work nicely with Mocha and Chai. She's furiously Googling. Okay. Okay, and so let's do an it. Adds user when user does not exist. And then I also want to do an it throws an error when user does exist. I'm trying to think whether there's anything else I want to test. Do I want, so I definitely want to throw an error if email or password are blank, but I think I want to do that before I even get to this function. I want that handling to be done in the route and not in my database function. So, all right, so it adds a user when user does not exist. It throws an error when user does exist. I think I'm happy with those functions. Unexpected token. All right, good. Now I'm getting those really angry red lines that I expected. Okay, so, all right, so now, yeah, actually, this is driving me crazy. So I'm going to, right now, I'll think about, well, did you find the arrow-mocha? All right, let's try it. So, I'm getting too comfortable because when I stop thinking, I just do Python stuff. Okay, so cool. Okay. Okay. So, oh, DB. Good. All right. And so what do I want to do here? I want to, I definitely want to reset the database before each of these. So I'm going to do a before each, and I am going to reset the database. And just thinking a little bit about how I want to do this. Ordinarily, I might make a different file that has this function in it. But I actually think I'm going to be resetting the database before all of my tests. So I'm going to make a reset database function up here because I just don't, well, no, I'll make a new file. Okay, Okay, so I'm making a new file called dbutil, which is actually really close to dbutilities, so I don't like that. I'm going to rename it to dbtest-util. And so now let's do this, and we have to add another dot dot. All right, so I'm going to make a function called resetDB, and this function is going to truncate the one table in the database, and it has no params, and it returns undefined. No, it returns a promise. So terrible modeling. Okay, promise whose resolution. Okay. All right, so now this is gonna be a function, or I can do this too. And what am I gonna do? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to say db.any, and I am going to do truncate table users restart identity. Is that right? I wanted to restart the serial numbering. None of you, okay, yeah, restart identity, okay. I do crosswords, and there's like, I feel like if I Google, like if I get stuck and I Google something, it's like more legit if I Google it and I don't actually go to like a crossword page, you know, that like gives you, and plus the crossword pages are all set up cleverly so that you can't read the answer in the Google results. You have to click so that they get their ad revenue. So I don't know, I'm very sensitive to like, no, I don't want to click. I want to just see it in the results. So, okay. Fine, so restart identity, and I want to return that, and fine. And then I want to do const seed DB. I'm going to have to seed the database because if I want to throw an error, if the user already exists in the database, then I'm going to have a user that already exists in the database. And it is bad form to rely on a former test to put the user in the database because you never know whether that test, I don't want my error test to fail just because my add user test failed. You don't want tests to be dependent on each other. Bad form. Okay, so const seed DB, seed a user in the database. It returns a promise whose resolution is unimportant. Okay, so I'm going to return db.any. Let's see, insert into users email password, and let's actually make this a multi-line string so it's a little bit more readable. Values Bonnie at Bonnie, my favorite. Oh, actually, I think we'll do $1, $2 here. And we'll do, if you ever want to log into any of my sites, right there. All right. So why are you upset? Okay. Cool. And now, actually, let's call this one. No. Well, we'll do a const init db return reset db then seed db, and let's. Now we will. Oh, right. So ESLint doesn't like it. This is actually one reason that I really love await, because you can, it actually makes it nicer, but fine. ESLint, I live to make you happy. So do this, and then this. Okay, and then I just get confused when I'm debugging because I'm like, oh, it didn't return it, but it did return it. But again, async await actually, I don't know, just to me makes the code a lot more readable. Okay, and so now initdb does not have. Oh, that's not what I wanted at all. Okay, you're just not gonna do what I want. So, all right, and returns promise, and this is, okay, all right, so, no, that needs to, all right, and now we will do module.exports equals, okay. So let's go back to db test. Okay, and so now I just want to, and this is something, like I actually don't need to make a function here because I have what function I want already, right? Although, I can't because it's async. All right, so okay, I have to do a return, because if I don't do that, it's not going to wait for my async function. So even though I don't like this, this is what we're going to do. And okay. Okay, you are all good. Okay, good. So now it adds a user when user does not exist. Okay, so my test is going to be, I'm going to run add user, new at new, and new. And I'm going to, after that, I'm going to do a dot then. I know to expect that. This is the magic, my magic of the JS doc, is I know to expect that to return a promise. So dot then, I am going to query the database and see if I get that user. So let's look and see. So if I so let's do db.any. I actually really want db.1 because if there's more than one, that's certainly a bad thing. So I'll do db.1 select star from Okay, so what I'm thinking about now, this turned out to be a lot more about testing than it did about like this module, but I can continue this if people want. So, okay. If you ask different engineers, you're going to get different answers, but I think you should never have more than one expect in any it. So I want to do two expects here. I want to expect that the email is new.new, and I want to expect that the password is new. Which means I'm going to have multiple its. But there's no reason for me to add a user in both its. So I'm actually going to change this to add user when user does not exist. I'm going to throw this one down here with a new describe. Add user when user does exist. And okay. And then, yeah, so leave you for later. And now my before each, I actually now have a legitimate before each. I'm going to do an initdb. Oh, we would have had problems because I never actually called initdb last time. We're going to do initdb, and then we're going to do a dot then. And I'm going to return this. So I'm going to do an initdb, and then I'm going to do a dot then, and I'm going to do this add user. And there are a few things I'm going to do also. I'm going to make a couple of global constants. So I'm going to say const email equals new at new, so that I can refer to them both in my before each and in my its. And const pass is new. And then, so email pass. Okay, and you're still mad at me for a lot of reasons. And yes, I know. Okay. This is what I hate about this. I've got a multi-line function and it's got no closing curly brace, and it's just like, it drives me crazy. Okay, so I am returning, no, what I want to do is I want to say const, and then I'm going to say const add promise. No, let bar add promise. Okay, and so now I'm going to say add promise equals this, and then now I get to put you back my lovely brackets, and then I want to return add promise. Can I do that? Maybe I can't. How do I get the promise from here? I've done this before. How do I get the promise from here into I can't do this because it's going to be async. So I think I'm going to just, for now, I'm going to do the done callback. So that'll run this. It'll set add promise to be the promise that's returned from this. And then I will have access to it here, and it won't finish this until I get the done. Yeah, crap. All right, reset the database, done. Okay. So now I have that promise. So I'm going to say add promise. Now I can do a dot then on the add promise. Oh, you hate me, like all over the place. All right, so now I can do a DB. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to going to want to do this just once also. So we'll do .then db1 select star from users where email equals $1. It's not the right thing to do here. I'm gonna no, I'm gonna say where ID equals 1 because I'm testing to see whether the email and the password are what's returned, and I know because of my initdb that it's always just going to be the ID 1. Okay. Okay, and all right, so now, okay, so now I can do add promise then, and now I actually have user row. Dot rows, no, I think that db1 just actually returns an object. Let's check on that. Oh no, you have to do this returning Shinola. No, that's the insert. If we're doing a select, you're not really helping me here, are you? It says print user object, so I'm going to assume it's an object. Okay, so select where ID equals 1, fine, and then so we'll just say user, and now finally we can do an expect. Expect user dot email to equal email, which I defined up here. All right, and now that I have that, other things are going to be a lot easier. So, okay, let's try running these tests and see what happens. Did I ever make my, so long ago, I don't know if I did. I made my dsql-l. Okay, and so let's just be optimistic and see what happens when we do npm test. setDB.then is not a function. Okay, so let's look and see what's going on there. Not there. Here. I did return. See, that's what I hate about this. Like, didn't I tell you that I debug? And I'm like, oh, I didn't return it, but I did. So it should, I have to. No, I shouldn't. Here, this is a case where I shouldn't have to do this because that's just ridiculous. Like, I'm making an anonymous function whose only purpose is to run cdb. Instead, it's better just to run cdb rather than making that anonymous function. Yes, thank you. I do actually have to run resetDB. Thanks, Jen. Okay, so okay. But the tests are passing, which is really bad because these tests should not pass. This is the idea of red-green testing. So I think I need to return here and return because it's just running through and it like doesn't wait for this to finish and it's like, oh, no exceptions were thrown. Great, you pass. Okay. Oh, I hate you. Okay. Really? Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Unexpected, okay. Yes, sir. I live to serve. Okay, now what's your problem? Missing oh, I hate that. I'm gonna have to. I want to change this to not need that trailing comma, but for now, especially because we're almost out of time. Okay. No. And then I didn't. Okay. But I'm still, things still, oh, you still want that. You and your comma dangles. Okay. Computers, such sticklers for spelling. No, where was it? In my DB test util. Relation users does not exist. So it doesn't seem to be, oh, right. I never added the tables to my my test database. So I should actually make an NPM script for it, but we're almost out of time. Just because when other people say, you find folks, download this, you want to know, like, you just want to be able to run NPM scripts to get things set up rather than have to like scan through everything and guess. But let's try one more time. Okay, I did a bad job making a promise. The throws an error, that's fine because I haven't actually done anything in that test yet, but I do get errors here. So huzzah! An hour well spent. Okay, so I know we only have a minute or so, but I do want to gather some feedback and see if there are any questions. So, was this useful? So I'm getting like, yeah. Okay. And okay, so was this useful? And do you have questions for me?
You talked about like you mentioned multiple times modeling, bad modeling. So what do you define as modeling?
Like I'm modeling behavior for you guys. I'm holding myself up as an example of what to do. And it would be like a parent, like, I don't know, crossing the street without looking both ways. That would be bad modeling, okay. Right? Yeah, yeah.
And then my second question is the JS doc thing that you mentioned, is that a spec or is that a tool?
It is it's more of a spec. It is a tool because you can, now that I have everything to the JS doc, I can actually run programs that will automatically make documentation for my code. And it'll make like nice HTML documentation just based on what I've put here for my code. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to make sure that my code is fully documented. And ESLint is really nice. If I do this, now it's, well, let's see, what's it? Yeah, expected JS doc for email, because that's what I put here, but found ema, right? And if I add another thing, I want salt, or I'm doing some other password stuff. Now it's mad because I haven't put a parameter for salt. So it's pretty good at keeping you keep making sure that you keep your documentation up to date if your functions change. Okay, cool. So do you guys want me to continue this, like, continue doing this for the week? I know Mira does. Okay. Okay. All right, cool. So I will post this, and yeah, enjoy your days. Let me know if you have questions.
Thank you.
I think that you can, so I just want to make sure. So you're using a resolution